The autumn woods were quiet that evening. The air carried the smell of fallen leaves, damp earth, and the faint sweetness of pine. A gentle wind stirred the branches above, making the dry leaves whisper against each other. Daniel Walker walked along the narrow path with his hands deep in the pockets of his worn jacket. He was in no hurry. The woods had always been his refuge, a place to breathe after long days of work. Daniel was a single father, raising his 8-year-old son, Ben, on his own. Life hadn't been easy since his wife had passed away 3 years ago. Some days, the silence of the small house felt heavy, but Daniel did his best to keep it filled with laughter and warmth for his boy. He worked odd construction jobs, kept the bills paid, and tried to show Ben that kindness and patience could carry a man through almost anything. That evening, Ben had fallen asleep early after a day of school and soccer practice. Daniel had stepped outside to clear his head. He often took short walks into the woods near their rented home, letting the quiet settle into him. But on this walk, something strange pulled at his attention. At first, he thought it was only the wind. A faint sound, almost like crying, drifted through the trees. Daniel stopped, listening. He turned his head, holding his breath. There it was again, a muffled voice, broken and desperate, carried by the breeze. His heart tightened. Someone was out there. He pushed off the path, crunching through dry leaves, following the sound. The woods thickened, shadows stretching long under the fading light. The cry came again, sharper now, trembling. It wasn't just fear, it was panic. Help, please. Daniel's pace quickened. He ducked under low branches, brushed past thorn bushes, and stepped into a small clearing where the ground looked torn and uneven. At first glance, he saw nothing. Then he noticed it. Loose dirt piled in a mound, shifting slightly as if something beneath was trying to move. His chest tightened with shock. Someone was buried. Dropping to his knees, Daniel clawed at the dirt with his hands. His fingers scraped against roots and rocks, pulling fistfuls of earth away. A muffled cough came from beneath, followed by weak words. I can't breathe. Hold on, Daniel urged, his voice steady despite the surge of fear inside him. I've got you. Just hold on. He dug faster, the soil cold against his skin. Soon his hands struck fabric, then an arm. He pulled harder, freeing more of the body until he uncovered a face streaked with dirt, pale and gasping for air. It was a woman. Her eyes fluttered open, glazed with pain and terror. Daniel scooped dirt away from her chest and shoulders, making space for her to breathe. You're going to be all right, he said softly. You're safe now. Tears welled in her eyes as she tried to speak. Her voice was cracked, barely a whisper. They left me here. Daniel shook his head, his jaw tightening. Don't talk right now. Save your strength. Piece by piece, he pulled her free until she lay trembling on the ground, her clothes torn and caked with soil. She tried to sit up, but her arms shook too much, so Daniel steadied her carefully. In the dim light, he saw that she was not just anyone. Her face looked familiar, though he could not place it at first. Her hair, even tangled and dirty, carried the kind of careful style that spoke of wealth. Her shoes, muddy and broken now, were once expensive. Then it clicked. He had seen her photo in newspapers, on billboards, even on the evening news. She was Claire Hartman, the millionaire businesswoman who owned half the real estate in the city nearby. Daniel swallowed hard. What on earth was she doing here, alone, buried alive in the woods? Claire clung weakly to his sleeve. Her lips trembled as she whispered, "You saved me. I thought I was going to die here." Daniel brushed dirt from her forehead gently, like he would for his son after a fall. "You're safe," he repeated, trying to ground her with calm words. "I'll get you out of here." But then her whisper changed. Her eyes, wide and frightened, searched his face as if begging him to believe her. "They'll come back," she said. "They'll know I'm alive, and they'll come back." Daniel felt a chill run through him. Whoever had done this was still out there. Whoever had left her here had meant for her never to leave these woods. For a moment, the two of them sat in silence, the wind stirring around them, carrying the scent of earth and pine. Daniel could hear her shallow breathing, quick and uneven, and his own heart pounding against his ribs. He had a choice. He could leave her, call the police, and hope they came in time. Or he could carry her himself, through the darkening woods, back to safety. The decision came easily. He thought of Ben, how he'd want someone to help if it were him out there. Daniel lifted Claire carefully into his arms. She was light, trembling against him, whispering fragments of fear. "Don't let them find me, please don't let them find me." "I won't," Daniel murmured. "I've got you." The walk back was slow. The woods seemed darker now, every rustle in the leaves carrying a threat. Daniel kept his eyes sharp, scanning the shadows, but his steps were steady. Claire leaned against him, her breath warm against his shoulder. When they finally reached the edge of the woods, Daniel carried her straight into his small home. Ben stirred from his sleep on the couch, rubbing his eyes. "Dad, who's that?" Daniel set Claire gently on the couch. "Someone who needs our help," he said softly. Ben, though young, understood the seriousness in his father's tone. He fetched a blanket, draping it over her trembling frame. Claire's eyes softened for a moment as she looked at the boy, but fear soon clouded them again. Daniel gave her water, then called the authorities. His voice stayed calm, but inside he knew this was bigger than either of them. The police arrived later that night, and Claire was taken to safety, though not without one last moment between them. As they helped her to the ambulance, she reached for Daniel's hand. Her grip was weak, but her gaze was steady now. "You saved my life," she whispered again. "Not just my body, my soul. I won't forget." Daniel squeezed her hand gently. "Take care of yourself." Days turned into weeks. Life went back to its usual rhythm for Daniel and Ben: school, work, small dinners at the kitchen table. But something lingered in Daniel's mind. The fear in Claire's whisper. The way her eyes had clung to his, not with wealth or power, but with pure human need. Then one evening, there was a knock at his door. Daniel opened it to find Claire standing there, not in torn clothes, not pale and weak, but graceful and steady, though her eyes still held a shadow. "I had to see you," she said quietly. "To thank you properly. And, to tell you something." Daniel stepped aside, letting her in. Ben peeked from behind the kitchen door, curious. Claire looked around the modest little home, her gaze softening as if she understood more about Daniel's life in one glance than words could explain. "I built towers and companies," she said slowly. "I thought I had everything. But when I was buried in that cold ground, none of it mattered. I thought of nothing but the air I couldn't breathe. And then, your face. Your voice." Daniel listened quietly, his steady presence grounding her. She smiled faintly, a fragile kind of smile. "What you gave me was more than life. You gave me hope. And maybe I'd like to know what it feels like to live with that, instead of fear and money." Her words hung in the air, gentle and uncertain. Daniel met her gaze, and for a long moment, the quiet filled the space between them. Not a promise, not a demand, just the possibility of something new. Ben, ever curious, stepped forward and asked simply, "Are you going to be our friend?" Claire laughed softly, her eyes shining with tears. "Yes, Ben, if you'll have me." The night settled around the little house, calm and safe. Outside, the wind carried the scent of pine again, no longer sharp with fear but soft with peace. And inside, 3 lives, once separate, once broken in different ways, found themselves leaning gently toward each other, as if fate had buried something deep only so it could be uncovered. Not just survival, but the quiet beginning of healing.